This is the Oxbow.
The Oxbow was created in 1836 Common Era by Romantic painter Thomas Cole using oil and canvas paints. Now, while it may just seem like an average landscape painting, this piece was not only a representation of America during the times when it was still defining itself, but also symbolic artwork that effectively revived landscape painting in the art world.
Right, but first, let's talk about the visual aspects of this piece. Cole makes use of an atmospheric perspective to detail the scale of the subject, that is the early American landscape, also adding a high horizon line to contribute to this effect. But more noticeably, he establishes a contrast between the two sides of his art to convey an American culture that is still in the process of forming.
Exactly. On the right side of this piece, Cole shows a more proper and organized landscape than the left side. He demonstrates how America was developing in the 1800s in small cottages and cleared lands. He portrays a more peaceful, pastoral landscape that humans have made. He presents a golden glow that is shining throughout the landscape. The land that was once controlled by nature has been overtaken by the regulation of agriculture. Cole displays animals grazing, crops growing, and smoke being emitted from chimneys in the background. Boats are sailing along a tranquil river throughout the right side as well. It it demonstrates zero feelings of danger or risk, unlike the left side. Also, Cole paints a mountain in the background that has the word Almighty on it, which is written in backwards in the language of Hebrew, connecting the peaceful settlement to religion and God.
With all of this happening, on the left side, Thomas Cole paints the polar opposite of what we see on the right. He paints the contrast of the tamed American settlement with a wild environment of overgrown vegetation, the sublime in this case, as seen in the large trees and foliage here. To further polarize the two sides of the oxbow, Cole creates darkened skies on the left, using light brushstrokes of a light bluish color to convey that there is some sort of thunderstorm occurring in this side. By adding the storm to this piece, Cole shows the ferocity of the natural world as he displays the possible power of nature that can be strong enough to strike a tree branch and destroy it completely, a broken tree branch being one of the focus points of this artwork. On the left side, this contrast establishes how America was not completely settled and how there was still much development that needed to be done as there were still dangerous, unknown Western lands that needed to be explored.
Furthermore, Cole displays a minuscule self-portrait of himself at the lower part of the art piece. He depicts himself wearing a red coat and hat, holding a paintbrush behind a canvas sat down on an easel in his own setting. He tries to engage the viewer by pausing in the middle of a brushstroke and looking at the viewer. He can be seen as a steady entry in the middle of nature.
Now, looking at the context of this piece, Thomas Cole was an English-American artist, meaning that he was originally born in England and then immigrated to the United States. During his time in Europe, he was able to observe the highly constructed and architectural landscape of England. Upon his arrival in America, however, it was clear that there was an obvious difference between the two countries, as the United States was still in the early stages of building up its settlements. In the Oxbow, he wanted to emphasize the difference between England and America by showing the differences in the general landscapes of the two. Using romantic elements from the Romanticism movement in his depiction, he paints the beauty of the New World as an ever-expanding region.
So when viewing the left and right sides together, we can see the idea of manifest destiny merging. During this time period, the Louisiana Purchase of 1804 had been signed and the United States doubled in size. Because of this, many Americans wanted to settle that newly acquired Western territory and expand the country. In this piece, Cole shows the benefits of this process as he demonstrates the west side to remain untamed and unbridled, while the east side is productive and organized after this development. Also, during this time with the Second Great Awakening in the 1830s, religion had become a prominent aspect of the American society. Christianity emphasized that God had given the Americans a right to more land. Thus, they expanded westward in their manifest destiny. Cole represented this with the mountain in the background that has the word Almighty in Hebrew, symbolizing the connection to religion. Routes such as the Oregon Trail facilitated travel to the west and increased settlement. So in the Oxbow, Cole displays this development in American culture to expand westward and settle in more land.
Overall, the Oxbow is a combination of different artistic themes that Cole includes in his painting. The work contains visual and conceptual ideals of American westward expansion and manifest destiny through its contrasting of the bright, settled lands of the east side and the dark, untamed environment of the west. Cole also displays the natural world of the early developing American society, as early settlers tended to their fields with the overgrown vegetation that covered Mount Holyoke, the viewpoint of the Oxbow. The theme of artist as subject is also included in this piece as Cole directly places himself in the view of the painting at the bottom. Finally, this piece represents an image of American identity through its representation of the ideas of manifest destiny that made up a large majority of American culture during the 1830s time period.
Moreover, when he immigrated to the US, Cole brought Romanticism to the New World. While he was in Europe, he observed the European art movements, one being Romanticism. He also saw how landscape painting was viewed as a lower form of art than many others in art academies. So he brought these two aspects of art to America and resulted in the transfer of Romanticism to American art, as well as the creation of the American landscape painting. In doing this, he elevated landscape art so that it was no longer a lower form of artistic expression and expanded the perimeters of art. Therefore, his work, The Oxbow, was important to the art world because he was able to bring landscape painting to a higher status and bring the Romanticism art movement to America.